Alright, everyone. Slightly different theme for this little series of movies. It's actually videos. It's actually going to be. Just check my audio here. Yep. It's actually going to be one long video, little project about an evolution of a trumpet. I have just picked up a new old trumpet. Long story short, there was a trumpet that was up for sale and it looked gorgeous by Gamon Brass in Poland. Really wanted it. I'd tried one before and it didn't quite work. There was something really funky with it in terms of the tuning was way out on it. And these particular instruments, this particular make of trumpets, are known for, let's say, having consistency issues. I've played some absolutely fantastic. In fact, one of my favourite trumpets is one of theirs. And needless to say, I've still got a bit of a soft spot for them because of that trumpet. So the trumpet in question that I missed out on, in fact, I had basically, quite waffling, Cameron. It's a Bach Strad 25 G bell. So basically, it's a large bore Strad with the 25 bell as standard, but it's a gold brass version. So it's got slightly higher copper content. And what I loved about the horn that I tried was it had a darker quality, what you kind of get from the gold brass stroke red brass type bells, where they have slightly more going on than just a standard yellow brass bell. When you really pushed it, really lit up. Now the difference about the one that Gamon Brass had was that I had a 6 lead pipe on it. So the 6 lead pipe from Bach is a slightly tighter, more focused lead pipe than the standard 25. I don't know if it's the tightest lead pipe they do, but it's really interesting. Now, there was no way I was going to afford that. It was an absolutely immaculate condition horn. I believe Trent Austin took that one off their hands, and he did a lovely video on it. So I've been keeping my eye out for large bore Strads, maybe some less fortunate large bore Strads, etc. Just trying to see if one came up, and one came up in the UK. Now it's a 25G. It's a mid-90s 25G. I'm not even playing it yet. I was going to do the whole ceremonial unboxing thing. However, long story short, this trumpet didn't really get to me as it should have done. There's nothing wrong with the trumpet. The delivery just didn't end up what it was. I ended up having to drive around chasing it, and just to make sure everything was okay before I left the shipping company, I decided to just open it in the car park and make sure that everything was fine as it was, and everything was fine. So what I'm going to do is, you're on my webcam just now, I have got my main Canon camera just over here, so we're going to do the video stuff on that of the actual trumpet. But we'll go back to my other cam just now so you can only see it. And this is it. It's quite straightforward. It's a bit of a dog in terms of how well looked at. It doesn't matter if it's been looked after or not. Some of these instruments from any Bach era, the actual finish on them is not fantastic. Bach is renowned for having horrendous lacquer. This one has seen better days in many ways. I'm not entirely sure that it's not 100% straight, but the compression of the valves is absolutely fantastic, etc. I'm not going to pull the second valve slide because it's really sticky, but I've checked that, it's all good. The valves are in good condition. The lead pipe is all right. There might be a sign of red rot on it, but I'm not too fussed about that because I'm probably going to be changing the lead pipe on it anyway to 26. The bell looks relatively straight. There's what looks like may have been a crease on it, but it's either been repaired extremely well, or it's impossible to tell. Just actually run about on this side in here. It's kind of tough to tell, but in terms of the bell itself, it's not too bad. So I've not played a note on this yet. I've given it a clean because it was a little bit gross. A little bit of advice: if you're selling a trumpet second hand or new, or you've had it playing or whatever, at least give it a little bit of a clean, folks, because that's a bit gross. I always clean the trumpets anyway before I put them on my face, no matter where they've come from. But to find bits of stuff on the inside, it's a little bit minging. Anyway, so let's get to making a sound on this. What I'm going to do first of all, I've got my Shilky here. B1 is back from on his travels. Just a wee interjection, if any of you don't know, I am still on temporary teeth. I'm about a month away from getting my permanent teeth in. This was away on holiday, excuse me, to a friend who wanted to use it for comparison's sake, and it is now back to me, so I'm really enjoying getting back into my B1. However, I am on a much bigger piece than I normally play on. The rim isn't massive in terms of like a Bach 1 or a 3 or something. I think it's actually based on around about a GR64, which is bigger than what I'm on just now anyway. But the cup depth on the inside is somewhere on the equivalent of like a Bach B or something. This is actually a cornet top from AR Resonance, and it's on the tight backboard. So it actually makes quite a nice sound, to be honest. And it's something I might visit in terms of jazz or small band work anyway. So I'm going to move the microphones around a little bit and get this set up. I'm going to play some stuff on the Shilky, and then I'm going to jump straight on to the Strad 25G. I'm going to jump over to the other camera just for the heck of it, just because it's there and it looks nicer than this guy. And we shall get some nice trumpety action. Okay, so here we go. So that was a B1 jumping onto the 25G for the first time. Right, so I've moved this, moved my other mic over, in fact, just so I don't have to mess around too much with settings, and it's a little bit easier for me to edit. In that, I'll play something a little bit more lively, okay? So I've jumped onto my the smallest comfortable mouthpiece I can play just now. It's not that bad. It's not. It's my AR Resonance S, and it's on the 42, but with a large backboard. We're going to just play a little something quickly on the Shilky B1 for reference. Switch the camera over, dude. B1 onto 25G. Right, so there's definitely a little bit of fizzle off that Strad, which is really, really nice. But even just there, moving around the trumpets a little bit more, it's very evident that the large bore Strad is not going to be doing the same job as the Shilky B1, which is good. That's kind of the point of this. When I get rid of my B7L and the B3L, I wanted a B horn, something that could step up with just similarities, but not straight down the same avenue as the B1. The B1 is a medium large bore with a large bell, and it does so much for me. It's a fantastic horn. I love that horn to bits. There's nothing really come close. However, I found in some situations I just wanted a little bit of a different sound. Again, probably says more about me than any equipment out there in the world. The 25 Strad with the G bell on it, I'm kind of hoping it does that thing where I can just like put on a different shoes and not really have to worry about making compromises. I suppose that's why so many of us use different horns for different gigs, etc. I'm not ashamed to admit that. And changing mouthpieces for certain situations, why not? I wouldn't use my smallest lead gig to go and do a small group classical thing or something like that. So anyway, there we go. So yeah, more to come. All right, here we are. We're on another video for this project horn that I've got. My rather tatty Bach Strad large bore 25G. And this is the first mod that I am going to be doing on it. The first mod was giving it a good clean. It wasn't horrendous, but you know, it wasn't clean. Anyway, so I've just done a little bit of a warm up, and this first mod is relatively cheap, and I did this mod as well on my Bach from the Bona, and I believe it made quite a huge difference. As with every mod, there is always a plus side and an upside and a downside, rather than a plus side and a minor side. Upside and a downside. Okay, so basically, going to play the trumpet just now, just as is, and then we'll talk about what the mod is. Nothing too strenuous for this time of the morning. So, what's the mod? I really should get autofocus sorted. What's the mod? The mod is these guys. So let's just see. Perhaps in my face. Metal valve guides. Okay. Now, modern Bachs, almost all modern trumpets come with nylon or plastic valve guides, and they're great. You know, they're quite quiet. You can barely hear anything, even with the Bach rubber bump stops. I prefer fabric, but even with the Bach rubber bump stops, there's nothing in there, or there's no sound of the valve movement, so to speak. Why nylon instead of metal? Well, I think part of it has to come down to cost. Certainly, I don't think there's any difference in durability. But what I notice when I play my other Bach with metal valve guides as opposed to nylon valve guides, there seems to be just a little bit more core to the sound. I wouldn't even go as far to say that it's resonance or it's tuning, or it's pretty much just core. And you know what? In this little excerpt, you might not even hear that much of a difference whatsoever. And I think it's one of those mods that comes down to player perception. If something about your setup, be it the trumpet, be it changing water keys, be it a mouthpiece thing, be it a lead pipe thing, whatever it is, if that change in perception helps you connect with your sound, then great, you know. the more you are connected with your sound, the more you're involved in what you're doing, and you're not fighting your tone, you're not fighting this, that, or whatever. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to change these over. Obviously edit all that stuff out. Or maybe I'll show you actually, because some of you might never seen this before. This is a trumpet valve, okay? This here is the valve guide. What's the best way to do this? As the valve is sitting in the trumpet, it's gripped on the side by the valve casing. How to 101. And as you push the trumpet valve down inside the trumpet, the valve moves down and the guide moves up. Okay? So there we go. And the spring's inside there too. You can see that. Oh, you can see that. That's quite handy. Incidentally, I'm using a slightly different studio setup. I'm trying to use a relatively large light box. And then it gives me a little bit more clarity in post. Or that's the theory. So there's going to be some discontinuity between the first video and this one. I'll try and make a seamless blend. Anyway, so loads of students get into trouble with this part because they're always messing around with the valve top and everything else, and then they're messing around and then go to play, and all of a sudden their valves come to bits, and it's like, oh sir, my valve's broken, something's happening, this spring comes out and everything else goes everywhere. So coincidentally, that's what we've got to do anyway. So almost all valves are built the same. Some of the older valves have a collar down the bottom, and there's top sprung valves, there's all different, bottom sprung valves down here, there's all different things. Anyway, so on the center, this little guy comes out, you rotate and it pulls out. Now on these particular valves on the Bach Stradivarius, this slide here, or this channel here, compared to this channel here, different sizes, which really helps, because I'm not sure if you'll see this, but on all the valve guides, pretty much, one side of the actual arm is thicker than the other. And when you actually look at the little notches, this side here is thicker or wider than this side here. And again, it's not a given, but usually this side where the thicker notch is going to be on the bell side of the trumpet. Okay, so that guy's going out. And now we're going to put the metal valve guide in. It goes in the exact same way, and if it doesn't fit in, you probably got it going in back to front or the wrong way around, in that the thicker part of the arm matches up with the thicker side or the thicker slot of the valve. Okay, so we go, grab it and twist it so that there's a little recess on the valve guide where the spring sits into. So just put that down there, and you can see that in that little recess there, the spring fits in perfectly. I'm not going to mess around with focuses because I've got it set to manual focus just now, and it's a bit of a pain. Anyway, so it now goes back together. It's like, don't worry son, I can fix that for you. Spring back in, all this stays together, got the valve felt in there. There we go. And that's it. So remember what I said, the thick part here, thin part here, they match up with the slots that are inside the trumpet in there. You can just about see them. And when you put these guys back in, as you line it up 90 degrees out, put it in, and then you should hear this. Oh, there we go. Try and get a satisfying click. Click. Now, remember what I said about how quiet nylon valves are? Second valve, third valve, first valve. Oh, it's actually not too bad actually. Probably need some oil. They do need some oil. But one of the side effects of having metal valve caps, if I do, you can just hear sometimes that click comes through in metal valve caps. So now I'm going to put the other two valve caps in now. Sorry, metal valve guides in now. And then we'll see if we can hear any difference in sound.
A few moments later.
Okay, so that is all 3 brass valve guides changed. So you can see there, we now have metal guides in. And we know if you are watching this and you're maybe just getting into doing things with your own trumpet, even learning to clean, I generally oil the valves certainly once a week if I'm not working loads, but make sure your valves are clean. If there's anything going to screw up your gig or your practice session, whatever it is, it's going to be your valves. Unless you don't practice, then that's going to be an issue too. Trumpet maintenance is somewhat overlooked, I think, even at professional levels. So time to use some valve oil. Valves have been in and out. I've been touching them. They're relatively clean, but want to make sure that everything's just as it is. Didn't mean this to turn into a maintenance video. And then back down. So you can hear they're all locked in. So there will be a way you can tell if your valve is not in correctly. So I know one's in properly. Oh, it's a bit sticky. It really needs to clean now, actually. Put number 3 in. That's all good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deliberately put number 2 in. Wrong. Screw that down. If you've got a valve in wrong, it doesn't kind of sound that right. Press the second valve. Definitely not right. The ports inside the valves obviously have to line up to the slides we have in the trumpet. Maintenance videos are us. Anyway, so here we go. Oh, it's exciting, isn't it? These aren't actually too noisy. These springs that are in this trumpet, I think they're original, but they're actually really, really nice. I'll need to compare them to the other Strads that I've got. So I'm going to switch over to my other mic. I'm going to try and play something similar to what I played the first time round, if I can remember it. And we'll see what it sounds like. Now, again, excuse me, to me, there just feels as though there's a little bit more core and fizz, even on those 2 tiny excerpts, and sitting here on a fairly bog standard SM58 style microphone with no effects on it, etc. It does just seem to have a little bit more core to it. So there are more mods to come. All right, okay. I don't know what camera to look at. This is part of the. I'll just turn the level up a bit. This is part of my Strad 25G build. I've got this camera on here because I figured I did it once. And you know what? It looks alright. It's a little bit different. You can tell the quality is so much better. Big light there kind of makes this side of my face look as though it's in the bright sunlight, and it makes the room get very hot. So I've got the door open. Anyway, so what I thought we'd do is. You're going to be so bored with this little clip by the time I played it, this little excerpt. I am going to play the first few bars of I Can't Get Started on 2 instruments. My standard Shilky B1 and on the Strad 25G. It's obviously a large bore with 25G bell, and it's had some modifications. Very subtle modifications, but modifications nonetheless. And what we'll do is, we'll do everything first in the B1, And then we'll talk a little bit about what I've done to the Strad. And this is going to be in 2 parts. The other part you'll see probably long before this video comes out. I'm just going to do a little bit of a night noodles out in the big room with the phone as a representation, because it's very good and it's very honest and the sound is not too bad. Actually out in the big studio, providing nobody else comes in to do some work, that would be very fair. And I'm just going to splice it into this video here, but that will be on the internet, interweb, YouTube's, etc. all soon. So what we're starting off with first of all is the Schelke B1, my favourite go-to horn for just about everything. Not everything, that's why I've got the Strad up here. But yeah, so I'll switch off that mic, don't need the back mic on. But what I am using just now to start this demonstration off is this guy here, this mouthpiece. So this is actually based on a GR. Let's see if we can get this rocking. A GR Cornet 4.2, I believe it's called. No, GR 64.2. So it's actually basically GR rim, and it's somewhere, they call it around about call it a soprano or soloist piece, but it actually works really well with the large bore, just about any instruments. For a more jazz setting, I've actually got this, the L back bore plugged onto this from my AR Resonance setup. Now the only issue is that the top, not to get into too many semantics, is a slightly tighter throat than the back bore setups that I use. I had a chat with Antonio about drilling it out, and it would wreck the whole way the throat comes in from the cup. So I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm going to leave it as is, and I might try and get 40 back bore, or maybe get one of these myself. Just make sure that our super focus is all as it should be. There we go. So, first up, the first few lines of I Can't Get Started. So, mute. Jazz. Okay. So now we're on to the Strad. Okay, in the defence of the Strad, I've been on the Schelke all week. I had, let me see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and most of Sunday off. And then I got a call that I was stepping up from second on a trumpet gig to lead. So I was like, oh, I'm doing lead. And it's my first proper pro league gigging. Booked gig that I've done since I've had my teeth in anyway. So you can kind of get a flavour of what's going on there. If I play something just a little bit more focused or intense, you'll get an idea of what this mouthpiece sounds like on each instrument in terms of like a less intense and focused sound. not too fair on the Shelky or the Strad there as I left the main big mic on. Anyway, so what I then have in terms of tastes and flavours are a next slightly more balanced mouthpiece setup. Well, it's not balanced, I suppose it is. The throats matching this. This is my SE42. So this is the actual rim that I use currently on all my gigs, but usually with the lead setup, which is where we're going to next. Now, I actually have a favourite backbore out of the S, M and L, so small, medium and large. Basically, the larger has the largest, I suppose, taper towards the end of the mouthpiece, and the small has the tightest taper towards the edge of the mouthpiece. So for me to get the best representation in terms of how I feel about the blow and where the compression is, this is the SE42, and that is on the 42M backboard. Same type of thing. What we'll do is just play something a little bit more intense, a bit more focused on the Shelky, and again then back on to the Strad. I thought I'd keep the same error there in Tequila for you to match out, to realise that, yeah, I am that shocking just now. So anyway, I think already you can hear there's a little bit more breadth and colour in the instrument compared to the Shelky, and that's not taken away from the Shelky by any means whatsoever. What I feel it does do, and this is part of the purpose as to why I got the large bore Strad with the 25G bell, is that I feel in my hands, it's not that I'm a one-trick pony with the 25G, sorry, with the Strad. Oh, blooming egg, I've got it in my head. It's a love affair. With the Shelky, it's actually that I become so used to doing a type of thing in the Shelky, I can't hear myself doing the other thing. That says more about the type of person I am, I think, in terms of the practice I do and what I expect of myself. Ideally, I would be able to use the one horn for everything and maybe modify my mouthpieces like I do just now, etc. A little bit just for tonality, etc. However, in terms of a lot of the section work that I do, so let's think of a sax and trumpet, tenor and trumpet, or sax, alto sax and trumpet, or trumpet, trombone, tenor, trumpet, trombone, alto, etc. I really like that close, nice, really resonant harmony sound that a lot of the sections had. I know when you got two trumpets and things, you're talking about like Tower of Power, or that really, really high lead trombone sound that you get, etc. in a lot of the Earth, Wind and Fire stuff. You know, a lot of that sound when it's quite dense and below the stave, it just sounds like one instrument. You know, it was almost like there's a crossover between the trombone and the trumpet, and in my mind, a lot of that was done in Bach instruments. And that's not why I got this instrument. I got quite close there with my B3L. But there's something about having a large bore instrument when I'm working on my improvisation that just brings the sound a little bit closer to me. So, what was I doing there? Oh yeah, I was doing. So I have just put my M back bore, like I was saying, that's what I was using there, on the SE, which AR resonance qualify it as not quite a lead piece. So this is my S lead. Let's see if I can get the camera just to show you the slight difference. The S lead is actually a little bit newer, so it's actually a little bit cleaner as well. That's kind of gross. So here we go. Over there. Oh, wait. It's kind of hard to see. So the S lead, as you look at it, is on the right. The throat and everything is exactly the same. However, the back of the cup is just a little bit higher. Obviously, it's a little bit shallow at the bottom of the cup. And it just gives that a little bit more support in the upper register. What to play for a lead line? Should have thought this out, shouldn't I? Okay, suggestions in the comments. Too late. Right, so let's do tequila again, okay? I'll tell you now, I'm not going to get the G. G. Still working on that. Had 4 days off, come on. What we will do is see what the rest of it sounds like. Bobby. So this is going to be on the B1, obviously, first of all. This is the S lead AR resonance on the 42M back bore. Ugh. 4 days off, don't do it. Okay. And that'll be people working in the studio now. Sorry, in the big hall. Anyway, so I think you can hear, I really do think you can hear the main difference with what's going on with these two instruments. And it's really interesting. I've heard some comments recently about reverse lead pipe instruments not being suitable for lead work, and it's to do with resistance and where the tuning slide meets up with the lead pipe, and large bore instruments aren't that efficient for lead work because there's so much not so much, it's different trying to get the energy to really resonate in such a way. And I think both of these instruments have their own colours, etc. And until you start going to the extremities of medium bore instruments for lead work and large bore instruments for classical work, then I think that's a bit of a kind of a grey area, because these are actually really similar, in my opinion. You might not think this, but I really do feel as though that they have a lot of qualities in common, and that's why I can really relate to both of them. Yeah, the main difference is one's a reverse lead pipe and one's a large bore, but the feel of the B1 is quite a free blowing instrument to me. It always has been. I actually was on large bore instruments before I went to the B1. It's got a large bore bell, it's got a step bore on it, it's reverse lead pipe. All that makes a difference. The blow on the 25, even though it's a large bore instrument, the 25 is quite a tight bell, and that does give you something a little bit more to push against. I find the 37 and the 43, which are medium large instruments from Bach, I find them extremely free blowing and quite hard to dial in. I've actually got on better with the larger free blowing instruments all my days, you know. So let's talk about this Strad. Now, I'll try and link back to some of the videos where I was working with a Strad new to me, etc., and the first time playing it. And what I'll do is I'll mess around with the camera a wee bit here. I'll put a swift little slick edit in to show you what's going on and what has been done with the instrument. So bear with me, you won't notice any of this whatsoever. Okay, so here we are on the decent camera. Yay! So you just saw the Strad there side on, pretty much like this. Now, the first thing you may notice, well, there's probably a few things you'll notice straight up, is there's only one brace here. Virtually all Strads, standard Strads, which of this was, regardless of bore size, have two braces between top and bottom leg of the tuning slide, top and bottom leg of the body that receives the tuning slide. Now, when this went into the amazing Bryce Ferguson at Edinburgh Music Centre, this was the first thing that I wanted him to have a go at, because we could do it straight there, right there and then. Literally went to the shop, asked him to pop it off. He did. Went and had a blow on it, and it was like, wow, that's quite liberating. I've got no real way to do an A and B in this. Maybe I'll find some appropriate audio to show or try and demonstrate the difference of it. To me, what it did was it seemed to free up the movement throughout the instrument. I removed some of that rigidity that a lot of Strads are known for, certainly the 37s are known for. But I feel that it has just loosened up the slots a little bit to make it a little bit more slippery. How's that for a nice magical term? Slippery, okay. So that's what I've done. I was going to be messing around with the braces, etc. And I've not decided on that yet. That'll be the final part of if I decide to do anything with this instrument. The next thing you might notice is the colour straight off. So, actually I wasn't entirely over the moon with it being made to look all antique, which this is. It's not a natural patina. It's like the vintage antique patina that they apply to a lot of instruments and then lacquer over the top. This is still raw brass, but it has that darker patina on it that's been manufactured to go on the instrument. I actually polished up the corner of the bell ever so slightly. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Oh, bump the microphone. So professional. And they can't really tell that much of a difference, to be honest. But this has got a gold brass belt, and I may yet polish it up to reflect that. It's very hard to see in the light. It sometimes just catches a little bit of a reddish tinge in it. You can't really see it there, but that's essentially the stripping of it and then making it look a bit nicer. The other thing is as well, when you have some of these finishes applied, and this goes for well, obviously polishing and lacquer, silver and plating, it actually hides some of the minute pinprick abrasions and blemishes on the surface. And even just from where I've been playing it, you can start to see those coming back up. Again, when I got this instrument, it was by no means perfect. So if I just try and adjust this again, I always get it the wrong way. You can maybe just see some of the scuffs and scores around the bell area, etc. And that's fine, you know. I mean, even though this was a mid-90s horn, it had a hard life. And, excuse me, in the grand scheme of things, the lacquer was destined to come off anyway. That's what happens with Bach, sort of lacquered. I have never, tell a lie, I have seen one really, really nice Bach, but it happened to be left in a case, in a cupboard closet if you're in America, for many, many moons, and it came out and it actually had really good lacquer on it from the factory, which is a rarity within itself. So the next thing that you may have noticed or may not have noticed is the tuning slide water key has been changed for an Amado. Now, there was nothing wrong really with the tuning slide water key that was on this. It was a bit wobbly. A new spring and tightening up the shoulders would have sorted that out. However, with a mind to the commercial instruments, so the commercial Strads that have this feature and have this option, and I know it's a shop option, I thought, why the heck not? I can always get it changed back. It's not an issue. And I believe it's actually gone again to relieving a little bit of the tightness and the stuff. And if some people will say it's an absolute placebo effect when you do that with an instrument and you don't really change that much. But I think all these tiny little tweaks have made quite a difference to this instrument. So what's next for the Strad? Well, I mentioned about, oh yeah, I think I've already talked about the brass valve guides I did in a previous video. So what's next for the Strad? Well, aesthetically, probably not much more. I want to get, and this has got nothing to do with playability, I want to get a round finger ring in here. I like those. Even though the Shelby doesn't have one, I still like them. I'm thinking about putting a number 6 lead pipe on this instrument. The reason being is that from what I've read and what I've been told by the geeky gearheads and everything that are out there, that it just gives a little bit more focus to the centre, or draws the sound in a little bit more. So it's almost like you're kind of balancing up the front end with the back end, because the 6 is quite a tight lead pipe. I don't believe it's the tightest, with the slightly smaller bell of the 25. Not too dissimilar, I believe, from what the Bach 7 has got. I've kind of done a review on that already. And that's kind of where I want to go with this. I actually want to compare this horn to a Bach 7, because I was talking about buying one for myself as a little reward for getting my teeth on and everything. But if I've got this guy, and so far it's doing absolutely everything that I want it to do, then I don't think I will need anything else. So that's the plan. So there we go. From when you saw... Let's give it its glory right there. Oh, no, there. From when you saw this instrument when it came into my studio, and the lacquer was beat up, but it was relatively straight. There's not been really much dent work done on it at all. I've actually put an extra dent in it the day I bought it. Unbelievable. It's not a bad horn. What have I spent on it? I spent about 120 getting the horn fixed up to look like this. Bryce gave it a full service, chem clean and everything, just to make sure, ultrasonic chem clean, just to make sure that there wasn't any rot hiding anywhere. The Mado key, obviously, and the finish, etc, etc. And removal of the brace. The trumpet itself cost 750 quid. I think shipping was £15, as it was all within the UK anyway. So was that 135 on to 750. So that's 885 for an absolutely astounding, really, really nice horn that's got its own character, way more than any other large bore Strad I've had before, or Strad for that matter. Maybe save my Vindobora, but it's in need of a valve rebuild. £885, that's phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. And I am relatively confident as well, I'd have to work, that if anything happened to the Shilky, then this, as a B horn or as an option horn, is an absolutely fantastic option. It's a great thing, it really, really is. So that's pretty much the culmination of the story of this horn for now. Over the summer, I had numerous projects that I wanted to use it on, and it was hard on a couple of the more lead poppy type things. But in terms of being able to do and achieve a sound that I wanted to do, man, it went to Ronnie Scott's as well. It's like this. I blew this on my second solo ever, third solo maybe at Ronnie Scott's, which was astounding. And it was comfortable, and it was there, and the sound was in my head, and it was fantastic. Will it be screaming over big bands anytime soon? Maybe with a 6 lead pipe, but not now. But again, £885 for a bit of a dog of a Strad that nobody wanted on eBay. It was up twice as well, and I missed out the first time because I forgot to click buy. Really, really lucky. So that's it. Thanks for watching, peeps. I shall get that little night noodles, or hopefully you might have seen it by now already because I talked about it. So, anyway, thanks for watching. The teeth are going great. I don't know when this video will go out, etc. It is now mid-August. Schools start back here in the east of Scotland tomorrow, so that's a big event for us with families, etc. And that's it. Again, as always, stay safe, stay smart. Oh, geez, stay smart. Maybe we'll edit this. Maybe we won't. I don't know. It's been a long day. Stay safe, stay smart. Don't forget to practice. Cheers. Bye. Okay, and now back on the metal valve guides.